Hello again, everybody. This is Professor Derek at ScreamingEagleAirsoft.com University. This is a know-it-all video. This is Airsoft 101. For those of you that are beginners or maybe are a little confused or just want to learn about Airsoft, my Airsoft 101 videos are very basic instructional videos for the noob, okay? And it'll help you out if you're confused a little bit. So today's video is about magazines. I already did a know-it-all video about magazine basics about a year ago. Well, I've had some questions since then about certain things on a magazine, and I'm going to try to address those today. I have a handful of M4 magazines here. All Airsoft magazines function in basically the same way. They are not that much different. So I brought 3 different types of M4 magazines out here to show you the 3 main types of magazines. There is a 4th. It is an electric magazine that I am not showing you today. Okay, the first type of magazine is the mid-cap magazine. When I say mid-cap, what I'm talking about is a middle capacity magazine. There are low capacity magazines and there are high capacity magazines. All they're telling you is how many BBs they can hold. Okay, now a mid-cap magazine will hold anywhere between 70 and 190, somewhere in that neighborhood. High caps tend to hold 300 plus, 220 to 400 plus BBs. That's a high capacity magazine. Low capacity magazines tend to be very set up for those milsim scenario players that like to do like 30 round M4 magazines, and then, you know, once they get 30 rounds gone, they got to reload. Okay, I have some mid caps. Mids and lows operate exactly the same way, so there's no difference between mid and low, just their capacity. High cap magazines operate a slightly different, and I'll talk to you how that works. Okay, let's talk about mid-cap magazines. Okay, well let's look down at the magazine so you can kind of see what's going on. The only differences you'll notice between the magazines are, this is a mid-cap magazine, and the top of this mid-cap magazine does not have any kind of trap door, where a high-cap magazine will have some form or fashion of a trap door that opens up so that you can fill BBs in there in a hopper. So I'll put these side by side. You take a look right there. You see that this one has a trap door, this one does not. The feed tubes are basically on the exact same spot, okay? There it is. The bottoms of high cap magazines, when you take a look, the mid cap is just like this. It has a place right there where you can insert the spring, but high cap magazines usually have a winding wheel, always. These are your standard M4 style magazines. Now, I have 2 of these other magazines right here, which are slightly larger in length, okay? You can see the length difference. The tops have trap doors, so you know they're high caps. The bottoms have winding wheels, so you know they're high caps. But when you compare them side by side, you can see that this one's got a larger, it's a banana clip, basically. The banana clip is a 450 round magazine, where this is a 300 round magazine. So you have 300, 450. Now you say, well, this one looks like a banana clip. Truly. But if you look at it, it's a little bit different. It is a Lonex magazine, and Lonex magazines have trap doors just like high capacities. They fill up just like high capacities, but on the bottom you don't see a winding wheel. There's no winding wheel, because they have a trap door that opens up, and they have an internal winding wheel that you wind using a string, and then you close it up, concealing the wheel. Some high capacity magazines have a hole right there, and that hole is for your winding key that you can stick in there, and you wind like this instead of going down here like this. It's a lot faster to wind it with the key. Mid caps, you can't just go and take BBs and pour them in. You can't do it. You must have a speed loader of some kind. Okay, let me load this. A speed loader. Open it up just like a high capacity magazine. You fill up the speed loader with 100 BBs, because that's how many it'll hold. And then you have to pump them using your little thumb pump. You have to pump them into the top of your magazine. It pumps about 3 to 4 BBs with every pump. And there's going to be 1 or 2 little extra BBs left over. Okay, so now this magazine has 100 rounds in it. It's supposed to hold 130, but I just put 100 rounds in it. So if I wanted 130, I'd put more BBs in my speed loader and I'd crank in 30 more BBs. Okay, something I want to say about mid-capacity magazines. When you get them brand new, the springs are going to be tight. Okay, they're going to be extremely tight. They're brand new springs. So you have to put less than 130 BBs in there. When I first got this, I put 95 BBs in there. The next time I played, I put 100 BBs. The next time I played, 105 BBs. And I built it up, slowly wearing, not wearing, but slowly working the spring into it. What do you call it? Not warming up. I broke it in. I broke the spring in. So now this thing will take 130 rounds and it'll feed perfectly every time. Okay, one of the advantages of a mid-cap magazine is, if you notice, I shake it, it's not making any noise. There's no noise coming from this magazine at all. So when I have this magazine loaded in my molly and I am cruising and I'm running, you don't hear any sound, you don't hear anything. Okay. Also, in the game, I do not have to wind it. I'm not like going, okay, I'm trying to wind it, because on the high capacity magazines, you have to wind it to maintain the tension on the spring. I do not have to do that with this. This is just a single spring in here, so that when I shove the BBs in there, it tightens the spring. Okay. So I fire this, right? What's happening is the spring in here is going like this, and it is pushing those BBs up, and when the spring is fully extended and the last BB is out, it's empty. There's no leftover residue BBs, nothing. It is completely empty. So these are a lot easier to use. You use a speed loader to load them. No sound. You use every BB. High capacity magazines. Different. Open it up. You can get a handful of BBs. Okay, I usually do a handful of about 100 BBs at a time. I use my left hand to make a funnel over the trap door so that I can pour into the funnel and it will go into the magazine. There's 100. There's 200. There is 300 approximately. Now if you look in the top of the magazine, you will see that the BBs are almost all the way to the top. Okay, now I'm going to start winding this winding wheel on the bottom. Okay, there's no BBs coming out this here, so let's start winding. Notice these BBs are going down because now they're getting fed up the feed tube. Okay, you now see a BB pressing against there. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to continue to wind. You do not stop winding as soon as you get a BB there. You continue to wind. You continue to wind just a little bit at a time for about 2 minutes. Okay? You keep winding. You're winding, you're winding, you're winding. This is what you do before the game. You make sure all your BBs, all your magazines are wound. What I'm doing is tightening that spring. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and my fingers are getting tired, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And there will be a point when I get to right about there. Now the spring's getting extremely tight to turn. I want to stop because I don't want to overstress my spring. Now there's this big gap in there. This is what I recommend doing. Getting about 20 or 30 more BBs in your hand and filling it up. Basically just topping it off. Why not? You'll have 20 or 30 more BBs when you go into the engagement. Close it up. Okay, so it's completely full magazines. Probably 330 rounds in here. I don't know, I didn't count every BB. Okay, so this is a fully loaded magazine. Your BBs are ready to go. It's fully wound. It's fully loaded. But here we go. I'm running on the field. Someone hears me coming. They shoot me dead. Okay, now once I shoot this a bunch of times, this spring will lighten up the pressure. Maybe after about 100 rounds it stops feeding. So I have to go back and continue to wind. So what's happening is I shoot, ba 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 ba, I wind. I shoot, ba 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 ba, I wind. I shoot, and then at the very end, when there's not enough BBs to feed anymore, you're going to hear this magazine go zing! And when it does that, you know your magazine's empty. But it's not actually empty. It'll have about 20 rounds left in it. Okay? And you can shake that magazine up and it'll still have those 20 rounds in that. You can wind it all day long and nothing will happen. Nothing will feed up here because there's no pressure on the spring. So what do? You put it in your drop pouch, you put it back in your molly or whatever. You run around, you got these 20 BBs shaking around inside your magazine telling everybody you're on your way. Same thing with this. It operates exactly the same way. You put your 450 rounds in there, you wind it up, and about every 100 rounds or so, you have to wind it up. Now, this is a high capacity magazine, but instead of winding it, like I said, you fill it up like normal, but instead of winding it, you pull this. Now, it's been my experience through games that I cannot just pull that 4.5 times and have it be fully wound and then play the whole game. I have to, about halfway through the game, pull it a couple more times to get the final load. But that might just be this magazine breaking in because I've only used it once. So since I have a high capacity magazine here, I'm going to shoot it a few times. Where's the one that's loaded? I'm going to shoot it a few times and kind of show you what happens when I don't wind it anymore. Welcome back. Okay, I've shot about 200 rounds out of this magazine, and I'm going to continue to shoot, and you might hear it wind up when it's empty. Did you hear that? Okay, that was the magazine spinning up, saying it's empty. Now I'm going to attempt to wind it some more. Not doing anything. Okay, so I drop it. Now, it is normal that when you drop your magazine, you will see a couple of BBs fall out. Why is that? Well, because when your magazine goes into your feed tube of your hop-up, the hop-up pushes into the magazine, which opens up the door that allows the BBs to push up into the barrel, right? Okay. Well, when you're done shooting, there's going to be those 2 BBs that are in your hop-up that haven't been shot, that haven't been pushed up all the way into the barrel, but they're also out of the magazine. So when you open it, those 2 or 3, depending on the size of your hop-up tube, are going to fall out. Don't be alarmed if that happens. A lot of people take their magazines out upside down so they can save those 2 BBs. Come on, if you're having to save 2 BBs, what? Okay. Okay, so you got to hear the spin up. All that means is your magazine's empty. You need to either reload it or change it to another magazine, like a mid-cap. No winding necessary. Okay, I'm empty. Change it. Okay, I noticed there was 1 BB right there. When you have a leftover BB in the feed tube, I'm glad I just thought of this. When you have 1 or 2 BBs left over, or like in a high cap, you have some BBs still in that chamber, it can be compressing your spring. On this one, it's going to be compressing it not so far. But let's say you've got a full magazine that's compressing the spring, or you've loaded a bunch of mags, but you only used 2. So what are you going to do with all those BBs that are still in your magazine? Well, you on high caps, you just open the trap door and pour them back in your bag. Okay, that's what I do with my high caps. I open the trap door, pour them back in my bag. There's nothing in the chamber. The only thing left are the BBs in my tube. Well, look down here. On all the feed tubes, they have these little release catches, or little, like this one has a pull that I can pull to manually open up my tube, because normally the hop-up tube pushes down inside there and opens it mechanically. But when it's out of the gun and I need to open it, oh, that's chipped. That sucks. Okay, sorry. I need to open this up and pour it back in my bag. So what I do is I get my fingernail underneath there, ready to open it up, point it toward my bag, and pour them in. Same with this one, fingernail under that little tubey thingy. And there, shot about 5 BBs in. All right, well that was Airsoft 101, and that was magazine basics, and I hope that helps you out on the airsoft field. Don't be alarmed if you hear a bzzing out of your magazine. All that means is it's ready to be reloaded or changed out. Don't, like I had a player on my team actually, he's new to airsoft, and his magazine went bzzing, and he looks over at me and he goes, oh, my gun's broke, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, just change your magazine. Dang, okay. He was new, he didn't know. Well, now he knows. And because he asked me that, I figured this would be a good opportunity to put out a Airsoft 101 on that subject so that all of you can learn the same thing. All right, well this was Professor Derek at Screaming Eagle Airsoft University, and please come back and check out our other know-it-all videos or our reviews, and please subscribe to the channel. And remember guys, whenever you're on the airsoft field, play safe.